Welcome to the Talent Culture Podcast. Learn how the most innovative companies implement culture and make it part of their strategy. On the Talent Culture Podcast, we're interviewing business professionals on how they prioritize onboarding and culture, bringing our own expertise and experience from working with dozens of companies on exactly this. The Talent Culture Podcast is an actionable strategy guide that can either help you implement these strategies in your company or learn how you get buy-in from executives. Your host is Søren Bolvig, CEO at Empact. Enjoy.
My name is Søren Bolvig. I'm co-founder and CEO of Empact. Empact is a software company that provides an engagement tool for larger companies, mostly deskless workers, in order to create both efficiency and higher employee engagement. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what kind of challenges and questions we're getting from possible prospects we have and clients that we serve. Employee engagement is something that most companies are talking about. And most companies seems to have a common understanding that having a high engagement from employee leads to a better performance from the overall company. So there's a lot of analysis done, a lot of surveys done that tells you that if you have highly engaged people, you have a more productive and more efficient. Everything in the company seems to be working better. But I think the real question is, how do you actually measure employee engagement? Because when it becomes maybe a phrase that everybody uses without actually having talked about what does it mean, then it just becomes, I will not say nonsense, but it becomes like just a buzzword, another buzzword that we use in the company. So I think the most interesting question is, how do you measure it? And there's a lot of KPIs for measuring it. One of the most common ones is the Net Promoter Score, the likelihood of an employee actually, recommending this place to another person. You need to look a bit deeper into it. It's not only about the HR questions about turnover of the people, the likelihood of the best hires you get in. There's a lot of KPIs you can have put in place here, but I think it's more also about, if you look at it from a company's perspective, how does it actually maybe affect your stock level, your efficiency, all of that. You need to take that into that account and work with employee engagement in that sense. There we sometimes lose track of it and go into a direction where it becomes features and functions in technology instead of talking about how do we actually make the individual more efficient and more, I would say, happy in the current surroundings. And that you can only do by taking the employee's perspective. What does it take for me to become a better employee at this and this company? So I think it's about taking the whole perspective from the employee and try to help the employee become better at doing his or her job. If you have engaged people, the likelihood of them contributing to your company in a more efficient way, it's much higher. And they're also more likely to stay with the company. They are more likely to be a good colleague. And a lot of things, it's like if you're engaged in something, you like it, like playing football or whatever, you like playing it, you often become better at it. It's very simple. But you also need the right tool to carry out your work, of course. And there it becomes like most companies, a lot of companies, then they introduce a lot of tools, a lot of software, and they don't really tell, or they just, I would say, they just expect that somehow it's gonna magically transform the way of who you work, the way you work. But sometimes it doesn't really work that way. So I think there's a great opportunity here for, try to explore it. How do we make a lot of, especially if you talk in, let's say, retail or in other sectors like retail, where the churn is relatively high out there. There's a lot of new employees coming in and out. So there's a great opportunity here for, making the onboarding faster, connecting with the people in a more efficient way in order to make those people having a more engaged a daily workplace. Employee engagement should have, I would say, all managers' interest, both from, middle managers to top level, to the C level. I think it's important that you have a culture where people actually are engaged in the company, both from a mental but also from a cognitive point of view, where they actually use the resources, I would say, to do a better job. And that's why it should have all all the managers and organizations' attention, to have the right culture, to have an appreciated culture, all of those things, and then it's some way supported technology-wise also. So I think it's all about, it's all about human beings or people. And they should, of course, be put in a situation where they can perform the best. When they wake up in the morning, they actually look forward going to the job. It sounds simple to say that if you have engaged people, you would have a better performing company. But the question is, how do you get there? And that's the difficult part. What kind of tools do you need? What kind of leadership model do you need? There are a lot of factors that surround this question. That's where you need to focus. And especially where we come from, at least, it's the whole part of the technology point is, how do you bring technology into life? Not a question about, do I need this feature and this feature? No, how do you make sure that the people actually are also engaged in technology and see it as an advantage of having it instead of a disadvantage? It may have a learning curve, but in the long run, it should be easier to be you doing your daily job. Even if you don't, then you probably will struggle as a company having the user to adapt the technology. The most common challenge is, of course, to agree on how do we measure it? What's your goal with it? Because we will probably all agree that engaged users are the ones that are positive, the ones that want to do their job, want to improve and all of that, and contribute to the company and to also the colleagues and everything. But how do you make that happen? The big question is how, and I think there are many tools for doing that. But you need to sit down and make sure that you probably choose the right path. And that there's no wrong path, but at least choose a path where your focus is on actually helping the employee. The best tips for engaging a large deskless workforce is to make sure that the receiver of the technology, if it's technology you need to put out there, understand why they should use it, how they should use it, and the third one would be like, it should be very easy to use and make the work life more simple for them. I think those are the most three important things.
This was the Talent Culture Podcast. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode.